A strong and unstoppable woman is not simply born that way. She is shaped and refined through life. She comes to know her value, rises through storms, speaks the truth with courage, loves herself without shame, and walks forward with a clear purpose. Her strength is not just her own. It becomes a fire that shines for others, showing them they too can rise. To know your worth is the very beginning of freedom, the seed of dignity, the solid ground drawing out every strong and unstoppable woman stands. So often, women are told to measure themselves by the shallow standards of the world, by appearances, by roles, by the approval of others. But true worth is never borrowed from those outside voices. Worth is not stitched into the fabric of someone else's opinion. It is born within you, placed deep inside, and no one can take it away unless you hand it over to them. When you know your worth, you don't beg for love, you don't crawl for respect, you don't apologize for existing. You stand tall like the mountains, knowing without doubt that you belong here. You stop comparing your journey with another's, because you know your own story carries a beauty no one else could ever write. The world may try to tell you that you are too much or not enough, but knowing your worth silences those voices. It becomes a shield against every insult, every dismissal, every attempt to make you small. There is a quiet, steady power in the woman who knows her worth. She is not loud out of desperation, but calm out of conviction. She has no need to prove herself because her value is not up for debate. She no longer waits for applause to give her confidence, nor does she shrink when others refuse to recognize her light. She keeps shining, understanding that her brilliance was never meant to be hidden beneath someone else's shadow. When you know your worth, you learn to say no without guilt and yes without fear. You stop settling for half love or broken respect. You refuse to make a home in places that do not honor your presence. You learn to walk away even with trembling hands because you know peace is more valuable than closeness, and dignity is worth more than comfort. You would rather stand alone with integrity than together with compromise. This awareness changes the way you love yourself. You no longer starve for scraps of validation. Instead, you feed your soul with patience, compassion, and truth. You look into the mirror and see not flaws to fix, but a masterpiece still unfolding. You stop asking the world for permission to exist beautifully. You stop apologizing for the fire in your voice, for the shape of your body, for the depth of your dreams. You come to see that living fully as yourself is not arrogance. It is honoring the life you have been given. When you know your worth, even your relationships change, and you no longer chase after those who run, and you no longer cling to those who cannot hold you with care. You understand that real love does not wound, belittle, or diminish. You do not allow anyone to treat you as if you are replaceable, because you know you are rare, unique, and impossible to replace. Your presence becomes a gift, not a bargain. Your love becomes a blessing, not a currency to be traded. This sense of worth also transforms the way you handle difficulties. Struggles no longer destroy you because they cannot touch what is eternal inside you. Failure may come, but it does not decide your value. Rejection may sting, but it cannot erase your place in this world. A woman who knows her worth does not crumble when doors close. She builds her own, and if no doors exist, she walks into the wilderness with courage, knowing even there she carries the light within her. Knowing your worth also shapes your dreams. You don't shrink your vision to make others feel comfortable. You don't dim your passion to avoid intimidating those who cannot yet see their own power. You don't lower your standards so that others can rise without effort. Instead, you stand tall and dream with boldness because you know your worth entitles you to a life of fullness, not scarcity. To know your worth is to reclaim your voice in a world that often tries to silence it. It is to walk with unshakable truth that you deserve respect, joy, and love, not because of what you give or do, but simply because of who you are. And when a woman truly knows her worth, she becomes unshakable, unstoppable, and undeniable. She doesn't chase the world. She allows the world to rise to meet her. Resilience is the quiet strength that carries you through storms and places you gently on the shore. Bruised, perhaps, but never broken. To live in resilience is not to escape pain, but to meet it with a spirit that refuses to surrender. It is to feel the weight of life pressing down on your shoulders and still rise with steady breath. Still walk with steady steps, still stand when everything around you urges you to fall. Resilience is not created in comfort. It is formed in the fire of trials, in the ache of loss, in the sting of rejection, in the loneliness of nights, when you wonder if you will ever find your way again. It is in those dark places that the roots of your strength grow deep into the soil of your soul, anchoring you against the storms of despair. A woman who stands in resilience is not untouched by pain. She carries her scars with grace, each one a story of survival, each one proof she overcame what once tried to destroy her. Resilience teaches you that falling is not failure. Even the strongest must sometimes kneel, not in defeat, but in renewal. The ground is not a prison. It is a reminder of how far you can rise again. Every setback becomes a stepping stone. Every wound becomes a teacher. Tears no longer mean weakness to you. They water the seeds of wisdom planted deep inside. Resilience teaches patience, reminding you that storms do not last forever, and neither does sorrow. It tells you healing cannot be rushed, that what is broken can be mended, and that a new dawn always waits beyond the night. A resilient woman doesn't demand a life free of pain. She accepts trials will come, but she believes triumph is possible. She knows her spirit is stronger than any hardship. Her heart can expand, even after being shattered, and her path is not ended by detours, but reshaped by them. Resilience is also the courage to embrace change. Life shifts suddenly. What once felt steady may collapse. What once felt safe may disappear. But resilience whispers, you will adapt. You will grow. You will make it through this too. A resilient woman does not cling desperately to what has already ended. She releases it with grace and opens herself to the unknown. She trusts that even in uncertainty, she carries the strength to endure and the vision to rebuild. Resilience is not hardness, it is flexibility. A tree that refuses to bend will snap in the wind, but the one that bends will endure. The resilient woman bends but does not break. She allows herself to grieve, to stumble, to cry, but she never allows herself to quit. Her strength is not rigid but alive, moving with her, adjusting with life, breathing through every season. Living in resilience changes how you see yourself. You stop identifying with tragedies and begin to define yourself by the victories you carved out of them. You recognize survival itself as a success. You no longer see yourself as a victim of life's cruelty, but as evidence of its beauty. For no matter what tried to silence you, here you are, unbroken, unbowed, and unafraid. Your resilience also becomes a light for others. When people see you rise again and again, they find the courage to rise themselves. Your survival becomes their inspiration. Your endurance becomes their lesson. Your strength becomes their hope. Resilience doesn't just lift you. It breathes life into those watching, reminding them they too can weather their storms. So resilience is not just about surviving. It is about surviving with grace, enduring with dignity, and rising with determination. It is the voice inside that says, this is not the end. This is the beginning of a new strength. A resilient woman is unstoppable, not because she has never fallen, but because she has chosen to rise every single time. To speak with courage is to step fully into your voice and let it echo without apology. Too often women are told to soften their tone, to swallow their words, to silence the truths that burn inside them. But silence does not protect peace. It only buries the truth. A woman who dares to speak with courage is one who has decided her words matter, her truth matters, and her voice deserves to be heard. It is clarity that comes from conviction. It is not about speaking to please others, but about speaking to be true. When you find the courage to speak, you stop practicing words that make you sound agreeable, and you start honoring what your heart really wants to say. You begin to understand that your voice is not meant to be a faint whisper lost in the noise of other people's opinions, but a steady song that carries the rhythm of your truth. Speaking with courage is never always simple. The world often criticizes women for using their voices, calling them too bold, too outspoken, too much. But courage is not the absence of fear. It is the act of walking through it. Each time you raise your voice, you push against the silence that kept generations before you in chains. Every time you name what hurts, what heals, what inspires, you loosen the grip of secrecy and shame. Your courage becomes a gift passed down to the women who come after you, showing them that their words too are holy and worthy. Courage in speech does not mean your voice will never shake. Your heart may pound, your hands may tremble, your breath may break, but courage does not erase trembling. Courage is the choice to speak even when you tremble. The shaking makes it more powerful because it shows the world that you chose honesty over silence, truth over fear, authenticity over approval. Even a trembling voice can shift the atmosphere, open blind eyes, and heal deep wounds. When you speak with courage, you set boundaries with clarity. You stop letting others decide what you should tolerate. You say no to what dishonors your spirit, and you say yes when something lines up with your purpose. Boundaries are not cold walls. They are living declarations of self-respect. Speaking them aloud takes courage, but once spoken, they open space for peace, dignity, and freedom. To speak with courage also means to tell your story, not the polished, edited version, but the raw truth of who you are and what you have walked through. Stories carry power. They connect us, they heal us, they remind us we are not alone. When you share your story, you give others permission to speak theirs. You strip shame of its hiding place and turn pain into wisdom. A courageous voice does not just free itself, it frees others too. To speak courageously is to confront injustice. It is to look at traditions, systems, and behaviors that wound and to boldly declare, "This is not right." It may cost you comfort, it may cost you approval, but courage calls you to stand with truth. Silence in the face of injustice only strengthens the chains of oppression. Your words may not change the entire world in a single moment, but they can light sparks of change, and those sparks spread further and faster than you think. Speaking with courage also changes the way you love. Love without truth is fragile. It is built on unspoken resentment, hidden needs, and quiet wounds. Courageous words allow you to express what you feel, what you long for, what you cannot accept. They build relationships that last because they are rooted in honesty. To speak with courage is to love with depth, to let your truth become a bridge instead of a barrier. A woman who speaks courageously does not seek to overpower others with her words, but to stand in her truth without fear. She understands her voice carries power, not because it is the loudest, but because it is authentic, steady, and free. She does not whisper when she has the right to roar, and she does not roar when silence holds greater dignity. Courage teaches her the balance, when to speak, when to listen, and when to rise. And so, to speak with courage is to declare to the world, "I am here, I matter, I will not be silenced." It is to let your words shine like lanterns in dark places, like bridges across broken spaces, like seeds planted in barren soil. A courageous voice may not always be welcomed, but it will never be forgotten. To embrace self-love is to finally come home to yourself. It is the realization that you are not incomplete, not lacking, not unworthy, but already whole. For far too long, women have been taught to pour themselves out for others until their own souls run dry. They are told their worth is measured by what they give, how much they endure, how much they sacrifice. But self-love whispers another truth. It says you are worthy not because of what you do for others, but because of who you are. Self-love is not selfishness. It is survival. It is the gentle but strong reminder that you matter too. To embrace it is to honor the body that carries you, the mind that holds your thoughts, and the spirit that keeps your heart alive. It is to look in the mirror and see not just skin and bone, but the miracle of your existence. It is to forgive yourself for mistakes, for failures, for the moments you fell short of your own standards. Self-love takes your hand and whispers, "You are still enough. You are still deserving. You are still worthy of joy." When you choose self-love, you stop begging for scraps of affection from those who cannot see your worth. You no longer cling to toxic relationships that drain your peace. You walk away from tables where respect is not offered. You choose yourself, not because you are prideful, but because you understand that choosing yourself is the first step toward truly living. The way you love yourself sets the standard for the way you allow others to love you. Self-love reshapes the way you speak to yourself. That harsh critic in your mind grows quieter. Instead of tearing yourself down with words of doubt, you build yourself up with words of kindness. You begin to cheer yourself on, to celebrate your victories no matter how small, to comfort yourself in moments of pain. You stop speaking to yourself with cruelty, because you realize your voice has the power to heal or to wound, and you choose healing. To embrace self-love is also to care for your needs without shame, to rest when you are weary, to protect your body when it is thungered, to tell you your peace when it is threatened. Your worth is tied to worth, to endless, productive it. But self-love knows you are not a machine. You are a living soul, and your rest, your joy, your peace matter as much as your work. Self-love is the soil where confidence grows. When you love yourself, you stop shrinking to fit into places that cannot hold you. You stop comparing your life to another's because you know your journey is your own, your timing is sacred, and your story is valuable. You no longer hide your light out of fear of outshining others. Instead, you shine openly, knowing their brightness does not dim yours. Embracing self-love also means embracing your imperfections. You stop chasing perfection and begin honoring authenticity. You understand your scars carry stories of survival, your stretch marks speak of growth, your wrinkles reveal wisdom. You don't need to erase them. You honor them as living proof of life. Self-love allows you to stand in your flaws and still declare, "I am beautiful. I am worthy. I am enough." When you love yourself, you guard your dreams. You no longer let others convince you to settle for less, to abandon your passions, or to silence your voice. You become your own protector, your own cheerleader, your own greatest believer. Self-love gives you courage to pursue what lights your soul on fire, even if no one else understands. It gives you permission to live boldly, freely, fully. And most of all, self-love teaches you how to love others without losing yourself. You give from fullness, not from emptiness. You set boundaries that protect your heart while still letting you connect deeply. You stop craving validation from others because you already know your worth. And in that, your love becomes purer, stronger, freer, because it is rooted not in need, but in overflow. To embrace self-love is to embrace life itself. It is to move through the world with quiet confidence, knowing you belong here just as you are. It is to believe your worth does not lessen when others fail to recognize it. It is to hold yourself tenderly, fiercely, faithfully, because at the end of each day, you are the one you must return home to. To walk with purpose is to move through the world with direction, with fire in your steps that nigh distraction, that no extraction can put out. It is to rise each morning, not drifting aimlessly, but standing firm in the knowledge that your life carries meaning beyond survival. A woman who walks with purpose does not stumble blindly through her days. She chooses her path even when the ground beneath her feels shaky. She knows her existence is no accident, that every step she takes belongs to a greater story unfolding within her. Purpose is not always loud or grand. It does not always shout from mountaintops or roar like thunder. Sometimes it speaks softly within your heart, urging you to move forward, guiding you to take the next step, even when the road ahead is not yet clear. To walk with purpose is to trust that inner voice, to lean into that quiet compass, and to believe that even the smallest steps hold deep meaning when they are aligned with truth. When you choose to walk with purpose, distractions lose their grit. The opinions of others may echo around you, but they no longer steer your path. You no longer chase after approval or twist yourself into shapes that do not belong to you. Instead, you move steadily at your own pace, knowing that your journey does not need anyone else's permission. Your feet know the ground they are meant to stand on, and they will not be shaken by envy, comparison, or doubt. Walking with purpose builds resilience in you when life feels heavy. Trials will come, storms will roar, and doors may close. But when your steps are planted in purpose, you do not crumble under the weight. You bend, you adjust, you pause when needed, but you keep moving forward. Purpose becomes the torch that lights your way through the dark, reminding you that struggles are not the finish line, but part of the path. You are not lost, you are becoming. A purposeful walk is not rushed. It does not hurry to prove its worth, nor does it stumble in desperation to keep up with others. It moves with steadiness, with patience, with quiet confidence. You begin to understand that timing is sacred, that your juried or night be hurried by anyone else's laid, by anyone else's clock. Purpose allows you to slow down and breathe, to cherish the journey instead of obsessing only over the finish line. Each step becomes meaningful, each moment sacred, because you know it is all leading you closer to the person you were always meant to become. To walk with purpose is also to live with clarity about your values. You know what you stand for, what you believe in, what you cannot compromise. That clarity becomes your compass, guiding your choices and shaping your decisions. You no longer wander into places that rob you of dignity, nor do you waste your strength in circles that dim your light. Your values act like guardrails, keeping you steady, making sure that each step honors your soul. Purpose also opens your eyes to the influence you carry. You begin to realize that your steps do leave only move you forward. They leave a path for others to follow. The way you live, the way you rise after falling, the way you endure storms becomes a guide for someone else searching for direction. Walking with purpose means knowing that your life is not only about your own survival, but about the legacy you leave in the lives you touch. Even in the smallest of acts, kindness shown, truth spoken, love offered, you are planting seeds that may bloom long after you have walked on. When you walk with purpose, fear begins to lose its grip. Doubt may whisper, uncertainty may linger, but they cannot stop you. Purpose gives you courage. It reminds you that fear may exist, but it does not rule you. You step forward not because the path is free of obstacles, but because the mission inside you is stronger than the fear before you. Each step becomes an act of defiance against doubt, a declaration that you will not remain still while your soul is urging you to move. Walking with purpose even changes the way you carry yourself. There's a quiet strength in your eyes, a firmness in your stride, a calm authority in your presence. People may not know your full story, but they feel your certainty. They sense that you are a woman who knows where she is headed. Even if the road is not yet clear, purpose shines through your posture, your words, and your actions. It becomes the rhythm of your life. To walk with purpose is to live with intention, to let your steps be guided not by fear or confusion, but by conviction and clarity. It is to keep moving even when the road is rough, to hold faith even when the horizon is hidden, to trust that every step matters because it draws you closer to the life you were created to live. To inspire others is to live in a way that your very presence becomes a light in their lives. Inspiration is not born from perfection, nor from a life free of mistakes. It is born from the honesty of your journey, the way you stumble and get back up, the way you endure hardship and still shine, the way you keep going even when life has pressed you down. To inspire is to become living proof that strength is possible, that hope is real, and that transformation that transformation can happen. A woman who inspires does not need to shout loudly or wear titles that impress. Her power rests in her example. She may be the gentle voice that comforts, the steady hand that helps, or the radiant spirit that refuses to be dimmed. Inspiration is not about demanding attention, but about awakening something deep inside others. The belief that they too can rise, that they too can overcome, that they too have a light worth sharing. To inspire others, you must first be true to yourself. People are not touched by masks or performances. They are touched by truth. When you embrace your flaws and share your story with honesty, you remind others that they don't have to be perfect to be powerful. When you allow yourself to be seen, not just in your victories but in your struggles, you give others the courage to face their own battles without shame. Your vulnerability becomes strength, and your truth becomes their mirror. Inspiration often shows up in the way you respond to adversity. When the world expects you to break and you choose to rise, people notice. When life hands you sorrow and you still manage to create joy, others find hope in your resilience. When you fall and yet rise again with grace, others learn that falling is not the end. To inspire is not about avoiding the storm, but about showing that you can dance in the rain and come out stronger on the other side. To inspire is also to lift others with your words. Words carry power. They can wound or they can heal. A single word spoken with love can awaken strength in someone, remind them of their worth. When you breathe life into a dream they thought was gone, when you speak encouragement into others, you plant seed that may grow long after your voice has faded. Sometimes inspiration is as simple as looking someone in the eye and saying, "You can, you are capable, you are enough." But inspiration is not only in words, it is in action. The way you live becomes the greatest lesson. When you work with honesty, others are stirred to act with integrity. When you lead with compassion, others are moved to be kind. When you stand against injustice, others gather courage to do the same. You do not teach only by what you say, but by who you are. Your life becomes the book that others read, the example they follow, the story they carry with them. Inspiring others does not mean carrying them on your shoulders or solving all their struggles. It means lighting the way so they can discover their own strength. It means believing in them when they doubt themselves, reminding them of their potential when they forget, and celebrating them when they rise. True inspiration does not create dependence. It creates empowerment. It does not make others need you. It helps them see the power already inside of them. To inspire is also to give without expecting anything in return. You do not seek applause, nor do you demand thanks. You give because your heart is full, because your spirit cannot help but shine. Real inspiration flows from authenticity, not performance. The deepest impact you will ever make is often in moments you don't even realize. An act of kindness, a word of truth, a display of strength that others quietly witness and carry with them for years. A woman who inspires does not live only for herself. She lives with awareness that her existence is connected to many others. Her courage becomes a foundation for someone else's bravery. Her persistence for someone model for someone else's endurance. Her love becomes a shelter for someone else's weary soul. Inspiration is like a ripple. What begins in you spreads outward and touches lives you may never even meet. To inspire is to live aligned with your truest self, to rise in the face of challenges, to love without holding back, to lead with compassion, and to walk with integrity. It is to let your life be the kind of story that, when witnessed, reminds others of their own strength, their own worth, and their own light. A strong and unstoppable woman is not shaped by accident, but by choice, by choosing to know her worth, to stand with resilience, to speak with courage, to embrace self-love, to walk with purpose, and to inspire others. Each of these truths is not a final point, but an ongoing journey. They are not clothes you put on once, but practices you live every day, shaping the way you rise, the way you move, the way you give. And when you embody them fully, you become more than just a woman surviving in this world. You become a force that cannot be silenced, a light that cannot be put out, a legacy that cannot be erased. You become the living proof that strength and grace can walk hand in hand, and that an unstoppable woman does not just transform her own life, she changes the lives of everyone she touches.